Hi, and welcome back to Beyond Tech. This is Mike Fry. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Mercedes-Benz.io, and we drive the Mercedes-Benz digital future by developing and operating their e-commerce, after-sales, and car platforms, as well as their marketing websites. I'm here with Karina Ivanenko. I'm here with Karina Ivanenko. I'm here with Karina Ivanenko. She's one of our lead Agile technologists and a software development manager. And we're going to be talking about Agile methods and Agile teams today. And we know that the difference between a high-performing development team is huge in how they impact the product and things like that. So let's get started. So the first question, what's your first experience with high technology?
Hi Mike, and first of all, thank you for having me here. And I really love this question. So going back to my childhood, my very first impression from technology was the one with Tamagotchi, then Tetris, and then Dandy. And if you wonder what Dandy is, that's an unofficial copy of Nintendo game console that was super popular in post-USSR countries. I only had it for a brief 2 months before it broke, right? But it really left an impression that the world was already changing. And the next, more conscious one, was from my school years in the Lyceum, where I was really fortunate to have this amazing informatics class, in which we got to learn how to use internet. And that cost me a lot of my personal time being spent in chat rooms. You know, still going to internet cafes, because nobody had internet at home, nor the computer for that matter. Apart from that, we also learn how to use PowerPoint, Excel, Word, very useful, still using that. Yeah. Also Photoshop, that I never used after that, but I did restore a super cool picture, family picture that was very old and used. And the last but not least, something that I never used afterwards. We learned rudimentary Pascal programming language in Turbo Pascal. And our awesome lady teacher asked us to draw a picture with that language. So I picked the easiest picture I could possibly think of, which was a desert, you know, with just one horizon line, and a cactus with a few rounded shapes and spikes. It took me forever to draw that simplest picture, so this is how I knew that despite already being a huge fan of technology, I will probably never be a programmer. So
Pascal was one of my first languages too. Except I didn't have to draw any pictures. I had to write a quicksort algorithm. And that made me want to be a programmer. So kind of like the opposite experience.
Look at that. Same but different.
Maybe if they made me draw a picture, I would have not. I would have changed my careers. So let's talk about frameworks. How would you explain the SAFe framework to someone who's not familiar with it?
Okay, great question. So imagine this. You want to throw a party for, let's say, 6 people at your home and feed them dinner with several meal courses. So you can do that by yourself or invite, you know, somebody to help you out, just not too many people, because you know what happens when you have too many cooks in one kitchen.
No, what happens?
Nothing good.
Nothing good.
Nothing delicious. Yeah, so that's easy enough with a little bit of alignment and collaboration. Wonderfully, you can make your guests happy by serving them good dinner if you're a good cook. But what about hosting a party of 200 to 300 people? Can you still do that by yourself, or with just 1-2 more people that will help you in a small kitchen? Most probably not. Most probably you will need more cooks to help out and a way bigger kitchen, right, to serve so many people. But most importantly, you also will need somebody who will coordinate this whole process to ensure that the guests, let's say, don't get their dessert before the main course is served. So similarly, in software development, you can use Scrum for, let's say, a small party hosting, right? When you want to build a small product. But once you're working in a really complex environment where different parts of the product are very dependent on each other and some other systems, you cannot do this with just a handful of people anymore. You need to have a lot of alignment between multiple teams. So this is where SAFe comes in place.
The scaling part.
Exactly. Building software at scale. And so there were these two very smart guys who invented this framework in 2011. Dean Leffingwell and Drew Gemillo. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the names right now. How do you build good software that will satisfy customer needs quickly with good business outcome at scale, right? And they came up with lots of rules for that, because obviously when you're handling such big groups of people, and there are several layers within SAFe that you can use depending on the size of the organization. And I forgot what I was going to say. So, exactly, they came up with lots of rules and roles and responsibilities, which will help the organization to deliver a meaningful value to the customer in the quickest possible way.
The thing I've noticed is with SAFe is that it really helps align the stakeholders in funneling the information to the teams. I've noticed that it doesn't always have a huge impact on teams unless they're not good at planning because of all the planning involved. You know, what is your experience with the impact on like an individual developer?
Yeah, that's a good question. So from the experience, the team level is not that much affected by the overall alignment and collaboration. So most of the teams that I know of still keep on working with Scrum, the usual software development framework that is being used in a lot of organizations nowadays. So for some other roles on the teams like product owners and Scrum Masters, this is more impactful because they are more involved in these collaboration and alignment sessions that need to happen with the stakeholders primarily.
Right. That's been my experience too. Well, thanks a lot for that answer. And then how do you implement an Agile framework and what are the main challenges in doing that?
From my experience, the first challenge here is buried in the question itself. Right? Like, why do we even want to do this? What's the purpose of implementing a framework? What's the purpose of implementing SAFe? It should be around a business need. It should be around generating some value for the business, helping the business to stay more competitive in the future. Well, that's easier said than done. You might already have the experiences doing that. Change is hard. There's a lot of obstacles in the way, and we can lose focus. We can get derailed. If we get derailed, what could happen is that, then we're going to focus on the tasks that are relatively easier to achieve and are more immediately gratifying. Like we are implementing more roles, we are implementing more meetings, but that's just simply not enough to move us in the direction that we want to generate better outcomes for the organization.
Yeah, challenges. That's a good keyword. Implementing any Agile framework is a huge change initiative. And more often than not, organizations tend to go practice or culture first, often forgetting the third puzzle piece that is essential for successful implementation, which is called the system.
Process.
Exactly, structure, roles, processes. So first of all, before implementing anything, it's essential to understand why are you doing it? What's your goal and purpose behind it? Then you identify the part of the system within your organization that needs to change. Then you pick the most suitable practice or framework, let's say Scrum or SAFe or LESS or Nexus. Then you make sure that there are systemic changes that will support this practice, right? You have the correct roles in place, you have new reward systems in place, And then when you see that this part of organization is working with this new approach and it's being successful, this is where you want to scale it and spread it to the rest of our organization, because the people will want to follow something that is successful, right? So the key here is to start small with a group of people who actually want to change and do something really cool and new. So not really forcing people to do things, but really finding those early adopters who want to do it, then implement it and show the successful outcomes, and the rest will follow.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty smart. And that's worked before, or what's been your experience with this approach?
It actually did.
It seems like it'd be hard to sell leaders on that, because people say, we want to move to this new thing as fast as possible.
Yeah, I understand. In my personal experience, it did work. I was very fortunate to have worked in a project that was like super waterfall before, with consequences of that. And then we really made a conscious decision to implement Scrum, to really switch to Agile software development. And believe it or not, the Agile took over the whole organization very soon after, because...
Congratulations.
Thank you. The product where I was working in was one of the first ones to do that. And other colleagues saw soon after how awesome it is to work in that area. Like primarily before even outcomes, because it was a really big one, a big project that took a while to be rolled out. They saw the motivation of the people who were working there. Like there was this positive buzzing on the floor that was dedicated to that product. And somehow everybody all of a sudden wanted to work there. So yes, I think it will work once you can show that people want to work there. The leaders will definitely follow that.
Like any cultural change, it happens really at the grassroots.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So what are the options for an Agile organization? Scrum, Waterfall, what can Agile organizations do?
How an IT company can still be using Waterfall nowadays, I think it's something that it's a little bit beyond my comprehension and even my imagination. Of course, if you want to be a real competitor out there in one of the fastest, if not the fastest industry there is, you really need low time to market and high adaptability. And this is what you get with Agile. Of course, it requires a lot of investment, a lot of time. You really need to train everybody and onboard everybody so they will use the framework correctly. But once you have it, you will thrive in one of the fastest changing and more complex industry there is. There are other industries that would benefit from using Agile or similar frameworks, but sometimes it's just hard to see the frameworks working for us. And this is the hardest step that you need to overcome. So personal choice would always be Agile over Waterfall, because we want to be the first ones out there with state-of-the-art technology.
Agile organizations can do a lot of things, but Waterfall they should not do. I learned it the hard way, and it was really an important life lesson, never again. But do you know the Waterfall anecdote, how it started? This is really cool. This is something that I found out when preparing and doing research for the training that we're doing in the organization. So there was this guy, Winston Royce, who wrote a paper in 1970 on how to develop large software systems. And he theorized in his paper what would happen if you develop software in this waterfall approach. So basically requirements, concept, design, writing code, testing, deploying, etc. And
Is it negative?
Yes.
Wow.
And during this paper, he came to the conclusion, God, no, you should not use this. This is a failure. Instead, he suggested to introduce some iteration loops into the whole process, which already is reminding us of some agile approaches, right?
Yeah.
But funny it is how people got literally that first page with the diagram of Waterfall that was very nicely described and never got to read to the end, which said, do not use.
That's pretty ironic.
It is. It is. So,
That's a great story.
yeah, I personally worked with Waterfall, I worked with Scrum, I even worked a little bit with Kanban for like more repetitive tasks that had a lot of dependencies to other stakeholders and parties, so it was very difficult to plan them in sprints. Worked in Access, worked in Scrum of Scrums, and now working in Save. And to be honest, my personal experience, it doesn't really matter which framework you go for, because none of them were invented for the sake of invention of a framework, right? All of them had a purpose of solving some centuries issue or times problem. So most importantly, you need to know what is the purpose behind, what is it that you're trying to solve and achieve with that, and then common sense approach, not being stuck on mechanics of that, but really focusing on delivering the value and giving the people trust and ownership in coming up with solutions.
So what would be your go-to software development model?
Hi guys. I really go with a combination between DevSecOps and Agile. In Agile, we can really focus on innovation, flexibility, and customer centricity. By those small cycles, we can quicker adapt to the ever-changing needs of our customers and markets. Agility also strongly encourages communication and collaboration, which is of vital importance for igniting this digital era for large organizations like ours. As for DevSecOps, it's about bringing security to the DevOps. So by prioritizing security while coding and in our CI/CD pipeline, we can better ensure that our software is better protected and more secure against potential threats. So in my opinion, the integration of DevSecOps into Agile is how we can better prioritize the customer while still delivering new, secure, innovative software.
I think most of our teams on a team level still work with Scrum, and it has been working out just fine. So, I would just use whatever works, but again, without being too stuck on the mechanics part of that. So I also know some teams don't estimate in story points, and you know what, that's totally fine. They can deliver value in a predictable manner. So I would really not
Estimate if they don't use story points.
They are a stable, mature team that have been working together for quite some time, and they're very good at cutting stories or features into like stories that they know for sure they will deliver within a sprint. So somehow they found the way of really cutting big chunks of work into these small deliverables, and they don't need to estimate in order to discuss what has to be done there, what are the dependencies, what kind of value it will bring.
But the key is that they're an experienced team that's worked together
Yes.
for a long time. They know their domain.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's when you introduce all the other things, all the uncertainties, that processes become more important, and maybe using story points and doing more estimation has its impact.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. All right, so we are at the last question. So, what will technology be like in the future, and how will it impact us?
Yeah, I wish I had this, they say Glaskugel in German.
Crystal ball.
The crystal ball, thank you.
But Glaskugel I like as well. It sounds like a really nice Danish.
Yeah, it does. Well, I think AI is definitely on the table, and now more than ever, everyone is talking about it with ChatGPT and stuff, so I'm pretty sure that will influence our lives in the ways that we cannot possibly imagine. I'm already wondering when my job as a ex-product owner or currently engineering manager will become obsolete, because maybe AI will write business plans for some cool products, but then also write the code for those products. So there are no more leaders, there are no more people that write code. I don't know about it. It's a little bit scary.
You'll be building AIs. Because that's what ends up happening.
There you
Somebody's got
go.
to build the tech. Like in the factory, somebody has to build the robots, and we just shifted the work somewhere else, but then the actual stamping out of each individual thing becomes more mechanical. I'm not sure we'll ever get there. You know, that feels more like a Tayloristic approach than a knowledge world. I think that some of the mundane tasks we're doing will get replaced.
Yeah.
But you know, I hope I'm there to see it. Or maybe
Me
we
too.
are seeing it.
I think we're already seeing it. I'm a little bit worried about the children at school right now who have access to ChatGPT because they don't need to think anymore. Yeah, no, but it's really exciting. And then you mentioned something, a keyword, robotics. So I think that's another big trend that will take over this world. Like as a kid already, I was a huge fan of Stephen King. You know, horror books, amazing. And one of them, Christine, I think was the name, was particularly scary to me because it was about a car that was possessed by some supernatural powers and was going right and left killing people just on its own. So ever since, I was wondering, when will we have these living machines that will have a brain of their own? You know, and I think we already have autonomous driving cars, so Christine is here. Yeah, and once I was in a automotive building plant, and in this huge space filled with the robots, and it was really humbling. Like, I really felt scared right there. There were no people, just machines.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
looked like in a Terminator movie.
Like a Terminator. I'm a big fan of Isaac Asimov and like his iRobot series and all those things are fascinating. Well, thank you for joining. This was really great to talk to you, Karina, and thank all of you for joining us on Beyond Tech. And I'm Mike Fry from Mercedes-Benz.io, and here with
Karina Ivanenko from Mercedes-Benz.io.
thanks, and see you around.
Thank you, bye.